We are live. Hi, David.
Hey, good morning to you all.
Good. You're very dark.
Yeah, I'll try to lighten it up a little bit. Thank you.
I'm just waiting for all the last minute people to join. Okay. That answers that. So Ashley said we will not see guests join. I was wondering about that. Okay, so we won't see anybody else, Ashley? I guess not. No. All right. Okay, I'll start then. David, did you want to just have any quick announcements, maybe about the holiday party, and then we'll get started?
All right. That was on mute. New platform for all of us. So welcome to the tenX Talks. Excited to have everyone here. Really excited to turn this over to Bob and the startup committee. They've done a phenomenal job in organizing these talks, and really excited to have our panelists today. So Colin, Tito, Jessica, thank you so much for joining us. So the only announcement I have is that it's the holiday season, and if you're not a member of the Orlando tech community, I certainly would encourage you to become a member. You can become a member by going to www.innovateorlando.com/OTC. We do have our holiday party coming up on December 17th. It will be at the Orlando Science Center. We are already anticipating well over 200 people, so it will be a full house. So if you are not already registered, please become a member, and I hope to see you and meet you at the event. That's it, Bob. Turn it over to you.
All right. Yeah, thanks, David. Appreciate it. So for those of you who are on LinkedIn and watching, these are our tenX Talks. These are our monthly education series hosted by Orlando Tech Community. And that's where we bring in founders and leaders in the community to talk with you and share their experience, share their wisdom with you, and say, hey, here's what we're going through. Here's how we solve these problems. So they've been very good. We've been doing them for several months. I'm Bob Reed. I'm from Starter Studio. I'm the director of programming there. We're located at the Tech Hub Orlando downtown. We're very happy to be there. I also partner with Paul Coulter. He's the president of Priority Concepts Groups, and he and I partner putting these on each month. So once again, welcome everybody. And I want to welcome our panelists. Thank you. I know it's a busy time of the year with all the holidays, so thank you for making time. And I will say that Starter Studios had the pleasure of working with each of these founders, and they participated in one or more of our programs. So we're happy they could join us today too. So I'm going to start off with having each of the panelists actually introduce yourself, give a quick kind of 1 minute update and elevator pitch, but also mention when were you founded. Yeah, I think we'll start right there. So Colin, why don't you go first?
Sure. So Colin, CEO of Acreage Farms. We were founded in 2022 and we're located in Daytona Beach, Florida. Currently at the Micaplex at Embry-Riddle's campus. For some context about what we do, so food insecurity, it's a growing issue around the United States, especially true around some regions of Florida. And vertical farms are a method to try to overcome some of those food insecurity problems by growing plants on multiple tiers within indoor facilities. They also want to bring these facilities into urban city centers, so that way they can go right from harvest to plate as fast as possible. But these farms are very expensive to build and operate. and they have very tight profit margins. So what we're trying to do is help this industry flourish by having a mobile crop and environmental monitoring system that can actually traverse multiple tiers of these farms, providing 27 awareness of how the crops are growing, the 3D environment of the different environmental parameters, and doing that all autonomously to remove down the labor burden and only have them address certain areas of the farm as needed.
Okay. Terrific. Great summary. Love it. Okay, Tito.
Good morning, Bob. Good morning to everyone watching, and thank you for the opportunity, Bob. I'm the CEO of Global Emergency Management Solutions. So we are a platform that try to provide solutions to both man-made disasters and natural disasters. One of the first solutions we've been working on since 2023 is FloodSense. The objective is really trying to mitigate what goes on with flooding, especially in urban communities, because we believe we can do more by having smarter solutions, i.e. sensors, and then a ton of software to support it so that we can provide real-time information and updates to decision makers at your county level, at your city level, so that in turn they can make educated decisions to save lives across those communities. So thank you for having me, Bob.
Oh, sure. My pleasure. Thanks. And Jessica.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Jessica King. I'm the founder of Flow&Tell. We were founded in 2021. This is actually part of a thesis for a graduate program that I was doing. So we're a biotech company, and we're focusing on women's reproductive health. We help women with undiagnosed menstrual pain learn about and get screened for endometriosis so they can get appropriate treatments. Endometriosis affects 10% of women, but takes over 10 years to diagnose. So we're addressing those health inequities.
Oh, fantastic. Wow. 3 very, very different companies and industries. So it's perfect. I think it really speaks to our ecosystem. We have a lot of different things happening. So Jessica, first question I'll pose to you. We find that many founders like yourselves and others, they really don't know how to connect with the ecosystem. Where do I start? Who do I connect with? So if you could say, just speak to how did you first connect and what prompted it? What was sort of the trigger that said, man, I need to connect with the rest of the people. So, and I'll have the same question for the other 2.
Yeah, sure. I started Flow&Tell like right after COVID. So that was pretty much a really big challenge. Everything was moving online. Everyone was busy. And I didn't have the network that I needed that I should have built up previously. And I wanted a way of finding and vetting the right people, because just like cold emailing someone and saying, hey, I exist isn't really effective. So I needed more structured ways to find people that could actually help, not just random coffee chats that like went nowhere. I had talked to a couple founders beforehand, and one of them had mentioned Y Combinator, Mass Challenge, and Techstars, which sounded really impressive, but I had never heard of those things before in my life. So I started Googling keywords that were on the Y Combinator website, and then just like adding Orlando to the search. And like, I'm pretty sure at one point I had a Google search that was business model canvas, comma, Orlando, comma, someone please help me, comma. Started building up an Excel sheet of things like Starter Studio and contacts and events, and then moved on from there.
Okay, good. All right. How about you, Tito? How did you first connect, and what was the trigger? Go ahead.
I mean, for me, really, with a background in emergency management and government work, I have my master's in public administration. It was always government, public sector. I mean, when I decided to be an entrepreneur, I like to be prepared. So as such, I had decided perhaps I should do my MBA. After a lengthy distance, I ended up at Cromer, which I think was the best decision that I've made to get my MBA from them, because in Central Florida, as you know, they're a tremendously helpful community, and it's very hard to go in and around the entrepreneurial community here and not find someone who's a Cromer grad or a Rollins grad, really. So that really helped. And I think one of the first key connections they've helped me make was Starter Studio. So it went from ideas to research very quickly to, okay, well, this is the structured way you might want to look at this. So I did the ideation stage and the build stage through Starter Studio. And I've made some great connections there, to include you, Bob, Don, and you guys really ripped apart everything that I had, and I welcomed it, because I approached this as a football match. It's just every day I wake up, how do I move the chains here? Sometimes you're gonna take a lot, the chain's gonna be moved back. You just gotta keep going. So that really helped connecting with Starter Studio and then tapping into my Chroma community. That's been very helpful.
Okay, terrific, terrific. How about you, Colin? You're in Daytona, so you're in a slightly different place.
Yeah, also, as being an Embry-Riddle student, I've been able to utilize their resources they have that's unique to the institution. So they have the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. So Dr. Rami Rahimi, he was the former director for this center. And really, because I didn't have any entrepreneurial experience at all, I'm an engineer, and I've been doing my undergrad, master's, now PhD, all core, hardcore engineering, I guess. So I had to build that business background. So I went to him with just tons of questions day after day. He started guiding us, into the direction we should head into, and then he ended up hosting a boot camp with partnership with Starter Studio, and then from there we ended up doing that build stage afterwards. Stephanie Miller from Embry-Riddle's Microplex had pushed us to go do that as well. So and then from there everything kind of expands outward as you start building your network.
All right, fantastic, good. So I'll start with Tito. I'll be mixing us who starts. Tito, was there sort of an example of a breakthrough or a milestone you achieved through that ecosystem? So you said, hey, I've been really struggling. I want to move this forward. Was there one where you say, wow, that really made a big difference in moving my startup forward?
I think there was a bit of naivete. I was a bit naive to think that we could bring this to market as quickly as I thought. And going through the build stage really helped open my eyes of the undertaking that we had before us. So at that particular moment, excuse me, when I thought, okay, well, we could white label some of the aspects of the solutions we're trying to provide, and that really opened my eyes that no, that's not gonna work, to the point that the first prototype that we've had, Bob, we are scrapping it and we're literally starting over. But I'm glad, because it's not a multi-million-dollar headache at this point. It's just a couple of dollars, honestly, compared to what it could have been. And that's the beauty of having really smart people around you, like people that are smarter than you. And I embrace that, because you got to step out of your comfort zone and understand you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. Matter of fact, if you're the smartest person in the room, as it sounds, there's a problem there. One of our founders, really co-founders, he tested this thing out for a week or two, the solutions that we had, and he told me all the issues that had come forward, and I was glad. I mean, when he ripped it apart and tell me this is wrong, maybe now let's talk solution. We can approach it that way. I was very thankful of that. So a lot of breakthrough moments, but the big one was really through Starter Studio during the build stage, understanding I don't have to rush to market and bring a solution that I have to rip apart afterwards after spending thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in.
Yes. Yeah. Which unfortunately we hear a lot of. And I often have meetings with people by Zoom, and they say, Bob, I just spent $100,000 on my prototype and it doesn't work. I built something that no one wants. And it's sad. And I almost scream out going, I wish I could have talked to you, 2-3 months ago, or any of you could have talked to them. Jessica, how about you? Any kind of breakthrough moments, something that really made a big difference by you? Go ahead.
Sure. I'll actually counter that with maybe like a mental breakthrough. So I've had actually some shady offers from out-of-state accelerators and investors, things that had like really outrageous residency requirements or very predatory equity contracts. So I was connected through Starter Studio, Rally, and Senfluence to advisors, lawyers, and experienced entrepreneurs that were like kind of able to go through the contract with me and talk it out and really evaluate those opportunities more critically for like, is it something that I really needed at that moment? Is it something that would be beneficial in the end? And most importantly, were the people that were offering money, were they going to be able to provide something back to me? And it doesn't really sound like a breakthrough, but in the moment, it's like you see an offer for money, you see an offer for investment, and sometimes you want to take it because it's one of the first things that comes to you. But yeah, so learning to turn it down gracefully and understanding why it's just as valuable as, being able to raise the capital.
Sure.
At least that's what I tell myself, right? But no, for real, it's like being able to protect your equity and being able to align with people that truly understand your mission.
Fantastic. Were you able to get legal assistance through the ecosystem? Somebody you could reach out to?
I sure was. I have one fantastic legal assistant that was introduced to me through Starter Studio, and then another one that was introduced to me as just like an entrepreneur in residence that has looked over some contracts and provided things as well.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. No, that's good to hear, because we usually find that, they're at the stage you are, and they get their first term sheet and they go, well, what the heck is this? You know, and let me sort through it. So I'm glad the ecosystem has several attorneys that can help out.
Yeah.
All right. Colin, how about you? Breakthrough.
Yeah, a big one for us was using the Florida High Tech Corridor, specifically Jack Henkel. He helped us review our SBIR grant that went to the USDA. And so for us, that was critical because we actually were awarded it on the second go around. But it really was a lot of
Congratulations.
Thank you. He really went in there and helped us structure it in a way that vastly improved the application. So that was big for us.
Good. Now, was that a starting point for you with the Florida High Tech Corridor, where you said, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. How do I do this? Or how did they work with you?
Yeah, so at first I had heard of the corridor, and I heard they had clusters, but I didn't really pursue anything. And then I'd gotten pushed. I forgot who I'd met, but they were like, "Oh yeah, apply." So then I started talking with a couple of the cluster managers. I learned about how they would provide help with doing not help with the writing process, but with the reviewing process. So I started working one-on-one with Jack, and then afterwards I learned about their grant matching program as well. So that's something we're looking to continue on and pursue.
Okay. And how are you pursuing the grant matching? I know you mentioned it earlier. How's that working for you?
Yeah, so it's going good. The way that it works for the corridor, so it's either UCF or USF, so University of Central Florida or South Florida. If you partner on a grant with one of those universities, they'll match the university portion, so the amount that the university sees as in that grant. And so we're looking at partnering with USF. We've been talking with USF Connect, so that's their incubator space. We're looking at getting an office there and trying to see where that goes.
Okay, terrific. And Jessica, you're part of Senfluence too. Is that right?
I am. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Terrific. And Tito, are you also part of Senfluence?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Jack is amazing, by the way. Jack is amazing. Lisa Rain, those are great people.
All right. Yeah. Oh man, good to hear. So I think you've connected again, Star Studio, but also Senfluence High Tech Corridor. I know Colin, you're part of the incubator at Embry-Riddle, so you're part of that. And Jessica, I think you at UCF. Are you part of the incubator there still? Okay.
Right.
So I think I'm trying to tell the audience here that there are many ways of connecting, and I think you three in particular have connected with several organizations. Each of them can bring value in different ways. And I think that's what's important. And we always, stress, connect with several organizations. Each one will bring you value. Okay. How about missteps? We'll start with Colin. Has there been a misstep that the community has helped you overcome? So you go, oops, went a little too far with this. Maybe it was a mistake and somebody gave you a parachute.
I don't know a specific misstep per se, but I think I think it would have been the sooner I reached out to these organizations and started learning faster. I think that would have helped maybe speed up some of the time, but not a core misstep, at least at the moment.
Okay. It's coming, right? How about you, Jessica?
Misstep, I would probably go the same. I would say maybe the biggest misstep I made was spreading myself too thin and giving away too much time and saying yes to every meeting, opportunity, or event that came my way. So spreading myself thin without a real clear purpose might have been the earliest misstep. And that was something that I had to learn to make use of the most valuable resources that are presented in front of me. And then respectfully aligning myself with the opportunities that the ecosystem offers. So.
Okay. All right. Good. Tito, any misstep or mistake? And you said, wow, somebody helped me out here.
No, I think the the main one really was not being able to identify that I've got about three different offerings with FloodSense. We have our hardware component. We also have
Yeah.
the software, and obviously we have the service aspect. Not being able to identify that early on cost me a lot of time and energy. Build it as one big solution. So once I was able to identify that, I think tapping into Chroma again and even Starter Studio has been really helpful
Yeah.
because I'll use you, Bob, because you go out there and you might hear someone speak and you just think of me and you send me some resources. I go and do the research. Now, instead of trying to, again, bring that into my entire solution, I look at, okay, which one of the three components does that fit in? And I'm kind of developing it piece by piece and then bringing it together. That really helped me on how to structure the team properly. So whereas we have someone that's just in charge of the hardware components, someone who's just in charge of the software aspect, and obviously I try to oversee the service aspect. And I think that helps to, again, move the chain much quicker than just, okay, it's
Okay.
just one big solution. So that has helped me.
All right. Good. Thank you. Thank you. So almost in summary, it says get connected sooner rather than later, and avoid those missteps from that standpoint. And I like Jessica, you said, hey, sort through it, because it can be a little overwhelming at times. Of there are in a way, it's like I finally got connected, and oh my gosh, now I'm connected, and I have a lot of, and I won't call it noise, but there's a lot of things coming at you. So you're right. How do I sort through those, and also sort through the various, perceptions people have or perspectives? And we often tell people you're going to hear from three different people, and they may have three different, opinions or perspectives. And you have to say, okay, it's up to me as the founder. I got to choose the best way. So, okay. All right. We're going to talk about funding now. Maybe I'll start with Jessica. Funding journey. What has that been like as you've kind of navigated? I know that this may take the rest of the session, but go ahead.
I think that I could do an entire tenX talk about that one specifically. So I would say the one that actually has been the most successful for me is actually just doing pitch events and pitch competitions. I think that when you're working in a health space and you're up against NSF and NIH, although there's a lot of great support for writing those SBIRs, they're very competitive, and they require a lot of regulatory background as is. So those take a really, really long time, and you see a lot of shutdowns on those. You'll get them back sometimes not even reviewed. There'll be no notes from the table reader, and you'll get that back. And that's just like part of the game, unfortunately. I will say that having a support system that knows and that can introduce you to things like the Florida High Tech Corridor introduced me to something called BBC ETC, which was a women's initiative for focusing on writing SBIRs for NIH and NSF, which was really cool. And it's nice to see that there's a lot of support in the community, knowing that most of the time the acceptance rate, even if you get your pitch accepted, which my pitches have always been accepted, it's, sometimes you just don't get the final proposal. So it's tough. And I think that that's part of what the corridor does well, is it lets you know there you can always keep reapplying. That's also one of the struggles for when you're going for grant-based. And then I think I give a little bit of the insight to some of the investors that I've had. And then I've also had some great investment conversations so far. So it goes both ways.
All right. Terrific. Which pitch competitions did you participate in?
Yes, I have raised over $185,000 through pitch competitions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So
Wow.
I think one of my favorite ones was right here at Rollins, the Kremer Venture Plan competition. That one was $40,000, but I've gone as far north as North Carolina and have even gone to New Orleans for them.
Oh, fantastic. Good.
Yeah.
And we often use you as a great example of going to pitch competitions. It's usually our big piece of advice, is because they say, where can I get my money for my MVP? How can I raise money? And they're not really ready for venture capital. And we say, get your pitch ready and go. And I often recommend, just talk to Jessica.
It's definitely a humbling experience every single time. It makes you very refined at trying to get your ideas across as quickly, eloquently, and just short as possible. Very nerve-wracking. So the ROI on that can be very low at sometimes. I feel like I've aged 20 years for every dollar that I've gotten. But it's nice because you end up making a lot of more of a community. So just like there's versions of Starter Studio and Sunfluence and Florida High Tech Corridor here, there's similar things that are happening in Savannah, Georgia and Atlanta that are great.
Exactly. And really kudos to you that you've reached out even beyond Florida. We advise people to do that. And there are many competitions that are still virtual. You don't have to leave your living room and you can do it. And I've seen people do very, very well in some of those. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. Tito, how about your journey?
It's been nerve-wracking at times. I think if I had any hair loss or any hair that remained, I've lost it throughout the journey of fundraising. But one thing that I would bring up, I did compete against Jessica's company when she won at Cromer's, and it was a tremendous experience. It was a tremendous experience because one of the things those pitch competition actually does from an ROI standpoint, it forces you to really hone in into your solution and figure out exactly the process that you want to put in place. So I was thankful for that, at the very least, Jessica. And that was one way that we looked at it. But afterwards, I've decided to really focus on trying to acquire one client so that way we can build our MVP with a client, because of the fact that we are kind of like a social entrepreneurship type of organization. We realize, okay, there are some government or county officials that might not have the funding to get the technology that we're doing. But if we can put something in the language where we can develop our MVP with them and probably have them write up some grants that they would qualify for, then that might be an easier way of getting our MVP to market. So we're in the process of doing that right now, and we're kind of focusing more of our energy that way to raise money. One of the things that we've been very careful with is not to bring the wrong type of investors on board, because again, we don't want to be slowed down by a board. And the money comes with a lot of stipulations. Jessica alluded to it. I'm just going to be blunt here. It can come with a lot of shackles. So if you're a founder that have a mission way beyond just making $100 million over the next 5 years for an investor, you might want to be extremely careful on what type of money you bring in the early stages of your startup. So I've been very careful with that. And again, having a great team around me that has done this from a grant raising perspective to building a company and then exiting, someone like Tom, I think it's really helpful as well in steering us into the right direction on how we raise money and how we bring money on board to do this.
Okay. What was any part of the ecosystem helpful in connecting you with local state governments to find potential clients?
Yes, and it's amazing. It's just an old friend actually, and then he became a chamber president, and he's connected me with some very, very important and influential people. I did not even realize at the time, because he kept telling me, "Hey, you need to join my chamber." I said, "Listen, the money I have right now, it's to feed my family. I can't join another chamber. I have work to do chamber." He said, "No, you need to join." But what he had in the background for me was that he could not personally send some of those connections my way or connect me with those folks via email until I was a member of the chamber. Once I did that, he really came through, especially some of the letter of support he's provided throughout our grant writing process has been beyond helpful. So I'm thankful for that. He wants to remain anonymous, so that's why I'm not naming him right now.
That's fine. That's fine. I just want to kind of make a further point that many founders are looking for pilots, right? They want to look for that. How do I connect with what other either corporations or governments, universities, and say, hey, I just want to start this and want to pilot it and get things going so I can gather data and I can get more validation. And so that's a great kind of use of those connections, which you're right. If you were to do it on your own, it's like, where do I start? How do I even approach this person? Okay, Colin, you're next. Your journey.
Again, as a student, there's a couple different resources that were available. So Embry-Riddle hosts a yearly Trep Expo, so it's a poster pitch competition. So we had first formulated our idea and presented it there just to get some reception on it. That went well. We got first, and we thought we were very big with our $1,000 check. Like we do so far. And so from there, we started refining further. We started working with Star Studio. We ended up doing the Launch Your Venture at Embry-Riddle. So that was their pitch competition they host. We ended up getting second place. So that was $5,000. And then in the meantime, like over that following summer, we also worked with VentureWell. And so they're not local, but they're another organization that helps startups as well. And so we had gotten their first stage grant. And from there, we were able to use our pitch funds to actually open up our office at the Microplex. And then I think in part by us having this like official space on our second go around on that SBIR, we were awarded that. So I think that kind of helped show that we had the proper resources and facilities to complete the work.
Yep.
And while we were also doing that, we obtained the stage 2 grant from VentureWell. So we're just really trying to utilize what we have in front of us to keep it moving.
Sure. And then you're working on that matching grant at the same time. So
yeah, so
we're using those funds.
Yep. Yeah, we look to add them on the phase 2 portion of the grant. So we have that application coming up in March.
Okay. Terrific. And you have a working prototype at this point?
It's moving. So inside we have a 200 square foot office. We have this a 4-tier vertical farm in there as our prototype that grows lettuce hydroponically. And so yeah, we have 2 different movement systems on there. And so there's a lot of work to be done because hardware, software, how everything connects. But we're getting there.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. I'll start back with Tito. So looking back, is there anything you would do differently if you were like, okay, clean sheet of paper, where do I start? How would you do it differently?
I would say getting a co-founder like Tom sooner. I think the focus should have been there, especially knowing that when it comes to that kind of world, the tech world, I'm new to it. Even though, it can be a quick study and everything else, but you can substitute the experience and the years of doing it. So perhaps understanding, yes, I'm trying to bring this life-saving solution to market, but understanding my shortcoming is not having the right technical background. Going after a co-founder like Tom would have been one of my first steps really starting this out. So I think I should have done that. The starter studio journey was great. Going to Cromer was great. But again, focusing on every single dollar on bringing in the right expertise would have saved me a lot of time and some steps that I did not really need to get into if I had done that.
Okay. And were there people that you'd say, hey, I would have started there, or people or organizations saying, hey, maybe I should have started there first, or not? Just curious.
No, I mean, I think Starter Studio is one of those organizations because you guys take people from ideation to fundraising. Perhaps an entrepreneur does not really have to go and pay for an expensive degree to connect into their ecosystem. So putting that at the forefront would be helpful. And I think Senfluence also has a ton of resources. And the sad thing is you don't know what you don't know until you do. So as a result, perhaps more marketing from these organizations to connect with folks that are starting their entrepreneurial journey might be helpful because it can save them years in the build-up process of their company or their startup. So I think tapping into those local resources that have, again, the A to Z on how to build your company would be very, very good of the first go around.
Okay. Good. And I'll come back to that comment you just made in a minute or two. Okay. And Colin?
So personally, I've liked my approach. I've said yes to every opportunity I could, just to try out all the different resources, services, try to learn what you can, because like Tita said, you don't know what you don't know until you find out. And so I think the big thing that I would stress is it doesn't have to be like an I-Corp program in particular, but trying to do that sooner. So we did participate in one hosted by FAU. And so that's where you do a lot of customer discovery. And I think that process is really instrumental. Earlier on, you can do it in your ideation because you can really see like who specifically you should be marketing to, what their specific problems are, versus maybe like if you're reading it from a book or websites, you think you know the problem, but trying to find those users faster.
Okay, good. Thank you. Tito, I'll go back to you. As far as the organizations that are out in that ecosystem, what could they do better? What would help you? Because we talked about if you could, change, go back and start over. But what could they do to better communicate or make you aware of what they can do?
I would say maybe be on the ground more because I'll tell you what, small business incubator system over at the mall there off of Colonial. I'm sorry, it's eluding me the name of it. I know, for instance, they do a lot of events and outreach throughout the different chamber of commerces that they have in Central Florida, whether it's the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the Greater Haitian American Chamber of Commerce. So they're very visible in and around different communities here. I don't think Startup Studio or Influence are that visible yet. Maybe it's a matter of joining forces with them and like, hey, look, if folks are starting this, yes, they can get all the trainings that you guys are providing on how to build an LLC, but the next level stuff on how to build their company from the ground up, they can connect with us. Perhaps having something like that might help. But again, to me, it's just kind of meeting those entrepreneurs in their own backyard, really. And I think more of an effort perhaps can be done that way so that when you have a great idea, you don't really have to, I can't remember how Jessica put it, type in, please help on Google or something of that effect.
Okay, so make it more easier to find the exact resource. You were talking about the National Entrepreneurial Center on Colonial Drive, right? Where you go there. So they just need to be, and now we're kind of post-COVID. So I think what you're saying is, hey, at these various events, maybe learn more about what they can do. And I'm just sort of making up, almost have a trade show, right? And say, hey, here's what we're doing, and really go in depth from that standpoint. Okay, how about you, Jessica? What would you recommend?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say that the main reason why a lot of us join these type of networks is because we kind of want an already vetted introduction to somebody else or to whatever the next step needs to be. Sometimes we don't know who the introduction should be to because we don't really know what we're missing, and we kind of have like blinders on at the moment, and we aren't really aware of that. Which makes it a little bit tough, right? Too, when you go to a networking event, you're put in a room with a bunch of people, and even though technically it's like a slightly warm introduction, it never really is. You still have to go up to someone and give your 30-second spiel, and by the end of the night, you've heard an hour and a half of spiels, and you remember 2 names and 2 faces, and that's it, and you leave exhausted. So I would say finding a good way to streamline how talent is shared in the ecosystem, some way of having a pipeline of knowing who is like your guru and your go-to for when you have these kind of questions, and they're not going to sell you anything in the meantime, right? But like, who's going to be your guru and your go-to for like a lot of like the issues that you're having, and having those introductions, and maybe somebody else in the background saying, hey, by the way, this is what I think you need, and these are the people that I think you should be talking to yesterday.
Okay. So if I were to use an example of accounting, so you need accounting, you have the basics, but maybe you're running into an issue, regulatory, or you've accepted grants and now you're getting other funding. How the heck do I make sense of all of this? So you need that subject matter expert. So,
exactly.
So you're saying, how do I get to that person? Go ahead.
Right. Or maybe as part of your MVP, you think that you're going to be part of the CPG space. You think that you're going to be doing a lot of direct-to-consumer sales, and that you're going to have a, wholesale a distributor that's going to give out your product. Well, maybe knowing who has done that before, and then they can talk to you about the pitfalls or the pros and cons of going D2C, or even selling on Amazon, or selling through, retailers like Target. A lot of those things could be really useful as you're trying to build out your pilots, and maybe writing those into grants as well. So, a lot of just the stuff that you don't already know, and that you don't know.
Right. And I'm also brainstorm a little of having a place where you can vet that and say, hey, here's how I'm going to market. What are my options? How do I figure out the various options? And then having people there that can speak to them, with some knowledge would be very, very helpful, because I know often it's hard to do the trade-offs. Should I white label that? Should I go B2B, B2C? There are many, many different options. And so, yeah, how do I vet those and get people that can speak to a startup? I often find if I connect somebody to, whether it's a law firm, accounting firm, and they've worked with Fortune 500 companies, they can't help you. They're not on the same page. So it's better to have people that have gone through the whole startup journey. Okay. All right. And Colin, how about you?
So something I really like that I think maybe could be expanded on is like with newsletters, for instance. So I received one from Semfluence that like they list off the different grant opportunities. Yep. So it makes it easier where instead of having to like, I guess, sift through all of these websites yourselves, it's just centralizing those resources and then it's right in your inbox. So it's one of the newsletters I really do like to receive. And so it helps keep organized a bit better too.
Okay. And how about connecting with, I'll call it subject matter experts? So if you need accounting and legal, or development, how do you find that?
We talk to whoever we know that, hey, can you connect us with anyone? We've searched just like Florida forums. We just kind of search high and wide or far and wide.
Okay. And have you been able to find mentors within the ecosystem, people that can really sit with you and work through many of the issues?
So up to now, our main mentor has been Dr. Rahimi. But at this point, I think we're just really like head down, just trying to work on the technology. So I got to pull my head up again and start getting into all these events.
Okay. How about you, Tito? Mentors out there, people that can really coach you, advise you?
With Cromer, that really was big for me. I mean, I can always reach back out. Mike is one of those guys. Mike Kozaskis out there. Dr. Pete has been tremendous, and just the other day I was having some legal questions and I reached out to him, and you don't even finish your thought. Dr. Pete's got 10,000 people that he can connect you with. It's been great. I keep hopping on this, Bob, and I'm gonna use you again. Bob, you've been quite helpful with everything on how we
I wasn't
build.
asking for that.
No, I know. And I want people to know. But here's the thing that I love with folks like Bob and even Mike. Sometimes you guys just go to a meeting and then someone says something to you and you come back and write a full-on email. Hey, Tito, I think you should connect with that person. And I think those subject matter experts and their connections coming back to you, that you're in the back of their mind during those meetings and during those presentations that they go to, it's been helpful beyond words, really. So I'm thankful for that.
Okay. So they're almost proactively, connecting with you once they know who you are. And I think that's part of the networking too. Once people know who you are, what you're working out, what you're struggling with, then yes, all of us who are in entrepreneurial support organizations, we bump into these resources. And it happens literally on a weekly basis. Somebody comes in and says, hey, I have this kind of experience and I want to assist. I want to be a mentor. So it's good to be able to connect them there. So we're never at a loss for mentors or advisors. That's for sure. How about you, Jessica? Mentors?
Yeah, of course. I have a few that have been introduced through like a lot of the accelerators that I've been in. It's accelerators like Starter Studio, Rally, Camelback Ventures, and then through incubators themselves. I would counter and say that it's very, very easy to get a lot of people that want to mentor because they do have like general goodwill, or they're impassioned about your project, or that they're mission aligned. And so then you might end up getting like mentor whiplash or advisor whiplash. So really pick, 2 or 3 who you really trust, whose advice is what you might not want to hear, but what you need to hear. And then have those people be the ones that can guide you to the next steps. That say, you can ask them, who should I speak to next? Let them make the introductions. So have a curated, trusted network. That's really invaluable.
Okay. Now, did you find as you worked with Rally and some of the other organizations, did they have different types of mentors or people that could help you? I guess what I'm digging at is each one has a different value to it. Did you find that?
Yeah. So Rally is the social entrepreneurship accelerator that's here in Orlando, and they have a lot of connections to people that are consistently mission aligned and that they want to do more good. So that's really valuable because you get to see how you can still be driving big impact in your community. For me, for women that are struggling with endometriosis. So it's really good because you're able to see it from that perspective. It grew. So Rally had great connections to another accelerator that was in New Orleans called Camelback, and they're a little bit bigger. And so they were really fantastic in terms of really connecting you a little bit more globally and throughout the US. And then through that, I got into SUNY's Health Equity, which kind of put the final nail of, this is what health disparity looks like. These are the health inequities. And then moving forward to writing a National Institute of Health Disparities grant with them. Yeah.
Wow. What fantastic connections. And, obviously you've been able to use each one in a little different way. And that kind of aligns with a lot of the advice we give out of, each one has a little kind of nugget or two that can help you.
Exactly.
So that's great. Yeah. Now, are you filed as a benefit corp? I wasn't sure, Jessica. Are you benefit or are you just?
Oh no, LLC.
Okay. Just curious with the organizations you're connecting with. Very often they work with benefit orgs
With
or
B-Corps,
not-for-profits.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're a little too early
Excellent.
for that.
All right. We'll start with Colin. So what would you recommend to entrepreneurs? What advice can you give to them? These are brand new. I'm just starting out. I have an idea. Any kind of roadmap that you would give them? And specifically, where do you start with different organizations?
Yeah. So I guess first off is just give everything a try, and you got to put in a lot of effort to try to see your idea forward. I think there's a couple early organizations to at least get your feet wet. So like 1 Million Cups, for instance, is an easy one. You get to meet a lot of different business owners. But and then trying to find like those, like the idea stage, for instance, with Starter Studio, trying to find where you're getting that early support to see if your idea can be pursued further, or if it should be, or things like that. But don't be afraid to talk about your idea, because people out there, they want to help you succeed. They want to help push you forward. And I've seen a lot of instances where there's, people don't want to talk about the idea and they try to keep it behind bars, but then you can't help them move it forward. And so I think there's a lot of that that people can use to succeed.
Okay. And as far as networking or getting connected, what would you recommend for them?
I've actually used like Volusia County's, like their economic development. They have like different events that they host. I've met a lot of people locally here. Looking for different, like once you find like an organization like Star Studio or these other ones, just seeing like what meetup events they have, just to start showing up and just try to go a couple times, and you slowly start meeting more people. You learn a lot about the ecosystem, and so people will kind of guide you to the new resources, and then that kind of gives you your new opportunity.
Okay, good. And thank you for making that comment of sharing what you're doing, because we often have founders that say, oh no, I'm not going to share. This is my idea. I don't want other people getting it. And we usually say, share it on the line at Walmart while you're waiting. Talk to everybody that you can, because you're actually much further along than many other entrepreneurs. And people don't realize that, I can get that idea, but then it's like, how do I begin this? How do I create a company? How about you, Tito? Recommendations to people out there, and how to get started. If I'm thinking I'm right at scratch, I got a napkin, I got an idea. Where do I go?
I think the very first thing, Bob, is understanding that being an entrepreneur, most of us don't grow up being trained to be an entrepreneur. I mean, our school system, education system, the whole nine is just not built for that. So that being said, if ever you have an idea for innovation, you just have to go for it. I'm a big sports guy. Again, the quote of "you miss 100% of the shots you don't take." It's so true in business. Excuse me, because most folks, we wake up with an idea and we talk ourselves out of the idea by the time we go to bed at night. You have got to be brave enough to just go out there and explore it. And oftentimes, you don't have to go seek Starter Studio first or those big organizations that are out there to help. Among your network, you can start talking. I don't think anyone is more critical than my lovely wife, because she probably want the best for me. So when I put an idea forward and it gets shot down, I know it's a pretty bad idea, because I know she's going to be supportive no matter what I say or do when it comes to it. So if she tells me that's a terrible idea, then I got to explore it further as to why it's a terrible idea, break it apart, and then kind of figure out what I can do better and improve upon. And from that standpoint, expand it. Go to your family members, brothers, your sisters, your cousins, then your friends. And from there, if you go on LinkedIn, you start having a bigger community, because each of us, I feel, will maybe 4 or 5 connections removed from an expert. So if you go to your LinkedIn page, you are working in emergency management, or you're looking for solution emergency management, start looking for the experts there. Start looking at what they're doing. And once I realized that, again, you have subject matter experts that are so near to me, it became a whole lot easier to tap into some of those resources. So if someone is starting from scratch, I don't want them to feel overwhelmed as to where do I start. Start within your own community. From there, trust me, the organizations will pop up. You'll figure out, well, I'm connected to Gene on LinkedIn, and Gene is actually the president of XYZ company that's connected to Senfluence. I've never heard of Senfluence. Let me research on Senfluence. So the research can be done in your own home, really. You just got to understand that your own network can lead you towards those organizations. So step one, again, is believing in your ideas and going out there to take the risk, because being in business, being an entrepreneur is not without risk, and it's not for the risk-averse folks. I'll say that outright, because you can't be afraid of the nose or of taking risk. You're going to have a lot of setbacks. So you have to condition yourself to be the most resilient person at the end of the journey, because you're going to get a lot of no's. You're going to get a lot of doors closed when it comes to your ask and what you need. So you just have to have the temperament to keep building on that and open more doors, tap into more resources, and layer it up, use it as a layered up approach so that you get to your ultimate goal eventually.
Okay, terrific. Now, are there local gatherings, events like Orlando Tech Community that you participated in that you found that was a good connection?
Yes, and I think, again, not only just the Orlando Tech Community, I can't remember, it was a tech event that happened for 2 days. It was a big tech event. And a lot of things I wasn't even considering. When I showed up to that event, I said, man, that makes sense. I actually attended the Hurricane Conference and talking to some of those folks there. And I don't mean to knock down what they were doing. I said, man, they're still living in a pre-2020 world in terms of the tech they use to enhance some of the solutions that they provide. So that helped open up my eyes in terms of customer discovery of what we could do as well. So leaving your couch and going to some of those events definitely help, but you have to identify those events and attend them.
Okay. All right. And Jessica, your advice?
Yeah. So I think the ecosystem can feel really overwhelming at first. So my advice is to start small and intentional. So pick like 1 or 2 organizations or programs that seem like a really good fit and commit to them fully. Like seriously attend every meeting, email the people that you meet, follow up with them, ask them all your questions, because when you start showing up consistently, you'll start building relationships that matter.
Right. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. They get to know you. Get to know what you're working on. And I find often, and I'll use Orlando Tech Community, go to those events, and I find we're just connecting, and I often have brought founders in, and they, are a little overwhelmed at first. And you can see by halfway through the night, they're talking to everybody that can, listen to them. But they're being introduced. So if somebody's working in an area, I can say, okay, here's somebody you can talk to. Let me make that introduction. So that helps a great deal. Okay. I will see if there's any questions from the people viewing. Ashley, any questions? Ashley there. Ashley says no questions. Okay. Any final thoughts, comments? We've got just a few minutes left. Anybody?
I guess one more tip. When I was doing some customer discovery, one of the people I was asking questions, like, I felt like it was like maybe probing too far, or like, you know, it's too,
Yep.
they weren't going to want to answer the question, I guess. But they were just
Mhm.
like, the worst that I can say is no. So just ask your question, and you know, then you find out your answer, you get a no. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there, and you know, keep trying.
Okay, good, good. So thank you all for participating. This was fantastic, and thank you for sharing. And I think, you know, the bottom line and really what we wanted to share with people were connect. It's there. There are resources. There are vast resources. I find them every day myself. I think I know. I've been doing this for 6 years, and literally every week I'm finding there's new resources out there. So you really should be able to connect and do your best there. Hold on a second. I think we have a question, so we'll go with this. Can you provide more context into what the key differences are between resources you're describing, Star Studio, Senfluence, Tech Corridor? Hang on. And just a second, I'm just reading it. So and anyone can answer this. Are you using all these resources concurrently right now? Or are you kind of focused in one particular area? Maybe Jessica, who you've worked with several different organizations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Starter Studio, like Rally that I also mentioned, that's part of, I think, the Orlando ecosystem. We can include them. They are accelerators and programs that help with a guided curriculum that is a set number of weeks that you're going through it. During that time, you might still be interacting with other portions of the Orlando ecosystem, which could include like Senfluence, Florida High Tech Corridor, NABO Score, and some of the other tech industries that you have. For those, those are more on an ad-needed basis. So perhaps you have an issue getting grants, or you're interested in learning how your tech can better connect with the Orlando or the Central Florida ecosystem. At that point, you might look at Florida High Tech Corridor or Senfluence, because those are more niche in terms of providing money and funding and connections to get your technology off the ground as it relates to Orlando's needs in general. If you're looking more for like maybe networking, let's say there's one that says, how do I know if I need actual employees, or if I'm trying to reach somebody else, then maybe I would talk to Women in Tech and Entrepreneurship or NABO, who might have more of the soft skills that I need and that I need more reinforcements in. So those would all be used more on as ad needed or in a networking kind of sense, whereas things like Starter Studio and Rally are definitive programs with a start and a finish date. Not saying that they're not available to talk to, because they always make themselves available for advising later.
Right. So there are different organizations at different stages, but also for different needs as they pop up. So you're in a way using many of them, but sometimes it's, I call it episodic. I got this, particular need. Help me with this. So that can be very helpful. Any other comments? Colin, you were shaking your head. Did you want to add anything to that?
I think she
You were just agreeing
perfectly. Yeah.
Yes, it was a terrific answer. And I think you're reading the notes here, because I think you answered everything else. Okay. I am going to wrap up. Thank you very, very much for participating. Really appreciate the time. Yes, Tito. Sorry.
No, I just wanted to make this last point, because again, we're talking about a ton of resources coming your way. To the entrepreneurs that are watching this, I just want to say, yes, be coachable, be receptive of information and feedbacks, but never ever forget why you decided to be an entrepreneur in the first place, because you can lose your original idea very quickly in the sea of advice and everything that's coming to you. So again, be open to feedbacks, be coachable, but always remember why you wanted to build that startup. Because I think sometimes we kind of lose the purpose along the way, because it's so much coming at you. So I just wanted to make that final point.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. Everybody have a good day. Our next 10X talk will be January 14. A good one not to miss, be part of, because we're going to talk about the state of venture capital in Florida and nationally. So we'll have venture capital people talking to where are they right now? What are they thinking? So a real good one to see. So that's January 14th. Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of the day. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.